Hello and welcome to today's edition of Route 664, the Road to Human Kindness. Yes, last week on Friday, I had a meeting with the West Aventura, and Sunny Isles Beach Chambers of Commerce regarding year-end tax planning, what you can do with charity and what the Endow American Network Foundation can do for you with regard to reducing your taxes that will be payable next year. And this is the time of year when tax planning actually can occur. And who better to talk about tax planning with than with a very, very, very good CPA firm, the leader of whom is Gary Massey. Gary, how nice to see
Hi,
you again. How are you?
thank you. Thank you very much. It's great to be here with you today.
So you have 30 years experience as a CPA working with people to try
That's
to
right.
help them with their taxes. Do you think that people really pay attention to their taxes? When they're taken out of their paycheck, or they don't really see them, are they paying attention
Well,
to that or inflation?
when you talk about tax planning, the greatest opportunity for tax planning is when people have some kind of a side business, some kind of a business. People who have wages, there aren't as many opportunities for tax planning. There are a few, for example, contributing to a 401k through their employer. That's a famous one, and that's certainly effective. Not in, it's infectable. It's effective both in terms of saving taxes as well as saving for retirement. But
Right.
when you really talk about tax planning, that gets into people with some kind of a business. It could be a full-time business or it could be a side gig. And
Mhm.
so, what I encourage people is to contemplate some kind of a side gig to go with their full-time job, and you will be amazed at how quickly they can start saving taxes.
So give me an example of that. Tell me a story about someone who you did that with, how that works.
I see it a lot. So one of the very common situations is people who invest in real estate. They could have
Hmm.
a job doing anything, and then they also start buying up properties. So that's a side gig. It's not their full-time job, but that is a way to accumulate wealth and also to save on taxes. So that's one way of doing it. And then there are other kinds of businesses. Like, for example, I can tell you from my own personal story.
Hmm.
Years ago, I was a CPA employee of large accounting firms.
Hmm.
And then along the way, I started to get some of my own clients, and I would work on them during the evenings. So that was my side gig. And after a while, it grew and grew. And I eventually had so many clients that I quit my day job and
Right.
started my full-time business, which is what I'm doing today. And it's the best thing that I ever did. So that started as a side gig, and it was my opportunity into entrepreneurship. And that has many advantages, some of which are starting your own company,
Right.
independence, and
Right.
also saving on taxes.
So tell me how it saves on taxes. That's what I think the question that I think I have
Yes.
and most people would have is how do you save on taxes by creating another business? What is how do you do that?
Okay. The, the answer is that many expenses, which are useful and it's what's called reasonable and necessary.
Hmm.
Necessary for your business, which might otherwise be personal expenses,
Right.
become business expenses, which are deductible, tax
I see.
deductible. For
Okay.
example, you could have a home office, and in that home office, you can do business work. And then all of a sudden, a percentage of your home becomes tax deductible. If you didn't have the business, it would be personal and it would be non-deductible. So let's say, for example, you have a home office in a spare bedroom. All of a sudden, a percentage of your home and all the expenses are going to be tax deductible. It's
Hmm.
going to save on taxes. It's a tremendous benefit. Also,
Okay.
automobile. If you have a car and you use it to a certain extent for business purposes, a percentage of your automobile costs are going to be tax deductible. The same with your computer or your cell phone. Uh, Sometimes travel expenses. Let's say you have meetings going to different places. There are a lot of things that you could do which are legitimately converting personal expenses into deductible business expenses.
So how do you get the revenue in there to deduct?
Well, so that's entrepreneurship. Somebody has to start making money. You start making money in whatever your business is. You have to learn how to sell whatever it is, whether you're selling, whether it's accounting services or selling selling arts and crafts, selling things that you grow yourself,
You're basically creating a
services
second
that you
income
perform,
stream.
whatever it is.
You're creating a second income
It's a
stream in
second
addition
income
to your
stream.
W-2
That's right.
income. And because you're creating
Exactly.
a
And
separate
you
income
know,
stream, you're deducting from that. Is that how it works? Or
that's correct. People get nervous about it, but I'm telling you, anybody can learn how to sell. I am not a special salesman. I'm just a regular guy. Okay, but I learned that if you go up to people and you tell them the story about what you're doing, eventually people will start buying from you if you have a service or a product that is useful to them. And you smile and you are genuine with them, people will start to buy. And then
Mhm.
you start to build a business. And that business, once like you said, it's a revenue stream. And then you can also take deductions against that revenue stream.
So you got to have the income production in order to deduct, which is an
Absolutely. Yes,
important issue. Yeah.
that's right.
What
That's
other
absolutely true.
ways are you using charity at all in the at the end of the year to help people lower their tax brackets in any way?
Sure. So people who are of a charitable disposition, it's a great thing to do. Obviously, you can support the community in so many ways, whether it's giving cash to a charity, a check or cash, or whether it's giving things in your home that you're no longer using, such as
Hmm.
clothing or furniture or household goods. You can bring it to the Goodwill or some other organization which can use those objects that are from your house that you're not using for their charitable purpose.
When you're, I know itemizing is an issue there because you have a pretty big deduction. Um, when you're, I guess, do you advise people when they're below their normal where they've got enough they've got enough of the exemption that stops them from paying tax. Do you have them fill that at all, like with 401k to Roth or anything like that?
Well, sure, there are other things which you can do that are going to be deductible, and that's where we get into these business expenses. Here's another one which I forgot to mention, which I think is just such a nice thing to do. If you have a side gig or some kind of a business, hire the kids to work in your business. If you have kids at home, hire them.
Mhm.
And it teaches them financial responsibility, it teaches them business skills, it gets them involved in your business. And it's a great gift to your kids. Give them something real to do, whether it's filing or answering the phone or sweeping the floor or whatever it is, doing mailings. Get the family involved
How does that benefit them tax wise?
because they could be in a lower tax bracket.
So
And there's a
because
certain
the kids are not
threshold where
they're not
they
earning
have
any
to
other
pay
money, and
taxes.
you're if you're paying out the expense to them as an expense for employees, then you're
Right,
deducting it as an
right. So
employment
there's a
expense, and
certain
then they're reporting in a lower tax bracket.
exactly true. And at the same time, while you're doing that and saving a certain amount of tax, you're getting the family involved in your business. And instead of paying somebody outside of your family, you're able to keep that wealth within the family. And what I find personally to be so fulfilling is teaching young people business skills.
Mhm.
That's a great gift to give to them.
I mean, it's much bigger than their allowance generally. So how do you approach that with the parents? Is it the idea that you're teaching them financial literacy? Is that the big switch it over that they're willing to make?
I think that's the most powerful thing.
Hmm.
Saving taxes is always terrific, but between those two, I think that the power of teaching your kids financial literacy and financial responsibility and entrepreneurship, that's just such a wonderful educational benefit that you're passing on to that next generation. I think that's just invaluable.
When you're, I know you're working with the public and you have a fairly large public practice. You're in Atlanta and Chicago, I noticed. When people
Correct.
come to you, give me on a scale of 1 to 10 their financial literacy knowledge. how do you see most people? Are they assuming 10 is the most highly skilled and one is the least skilled? What do you find mostly?
In the middle somewhere, there's a certain, the average is in the middle. It depends on their level of financial sophistication, of course, and
Yeah.
the average is in the middle somewhere. Some
Is their
people can do
financial
things
sophistication
themselves.
directly, is that directly related to their income, the level of income?
Usually, some people want to do things themselves. Like, for example, bookkeeping. If you have a business, we've been talking a lot about businesses. But if you have a small business, you have to have some level of bookkeeping because you can't prepare a tax return unless you have bookkeeping. You don't know what your income is and you don't know what your expenses are. So on a very basic level, bookkeeping is the recording of income and expenses. And
Mhm.
that's the fundamental part of doing a tax return.
Yeah.
So you have to have something, whether you keep it in Excel, in some kind of a spreadsheet electronically, or you have a piece of paper. You have to have something. And that's the basis for the tax return. And some people want to do it themselves. Some people want to hire a bookkeeper, whatever you want, but you have to have it. That's one of the basics of owning a business.
That's, yeah, owning the business is the issue. For people who are W-2 employees, they're not going to be doing that. Um,
Mhm.
W-2 employees, though, don't really comprehend sometimes how much money is actually being taken out of their check. And then they look for the refund as if it's a prize that's coming to them, but it's really their own money coming back
They're on
because
money, yes.
they've overpaid. But there's a possibility. Is there any possibility that these folks could be trained to utilize some of these charitable devices that are available, even if they're W-2 employees, like using pooled income funds or even donor advised funds? Do you find that the people, I guess, if they have a good tax year and they can lower their bracket from a 32% bracket to a 24% bracket, it's an 8% difference. If they could drop their income down, their adjusted gross income, is that something you talk to them
Yeah.
about?
It's a good point. We could do a better job of bringing it up more, and I'm really glad that you're reminding me about that. One of the easiest ways always is if it's automatically taken out of your paycheck. If you
Hmm.
have a monthly or weekly or whatever draw where it comes out of your paycheck and goes into those funds, that's just terrific. If you don't have to think about it and it's automated, that's a great way. Whether you're saving for your retirement or you're giving something charitable, that's a
Hmm.
great way to do it without having to remind yourself.
So in your education process, when you became a CPA, did they spend much time talking about these charitable devices, what we call the social charity devices, the charitable gift annuities, charitable remainder trust, pooled income funds, charitable lead trust, that kind of stuff? Is that part of the education process in becoming a CPA?
That's a great question. I would say it is mentioned, but not as much as it should be.
Hmm.
And I'm glad that you are bringing up these charitable ideas because certainly we are living in a difficult and challenging world, and to the extent that people can be charitable and can share with others who are less fortunate, that's just a wonderful thing to do.
So the benefits of using these devices, of course, is one of them is to build retirement income. Social Security takes a pretty big bite out of everybody's paycheck. What is it up to now? What percentage is actually covered by Social Security? What's the top dollar amount now?
I don't know off the top of my head what those percentages are.
Something like 132,000, I think, is the top that they will
Yeah,
tax.
something like that. There's FICA and CUDA.
Yeah, what are those taxes? FICA, SUDA, that they show up on your
That
tax on your on
that's
your W-2. What are those things?
some of it relates to unemployment, funding the unemployment system. Some of it relates to the Social Security you get when you retire one day.
So
And if
those are things that are
if you're
taken
an
out.
employee,
Those are involuntary.
correct. If you're an employee, it'll come out of your paycheck. If you have your own business, there's something called the self-employment tax.
Mhm.
We abbreviate it as the SC tax, but it's the self-employment tax, and it is the same thing. There are two pieces. There's an employee piece and an employer piece. So if you have your own business, you're going to see or you're going to have to pay self-employment taxes. And there are tax planning strategies that we can do, especially when it comes to year end, which will help reduce that.
Are those tax deductible, those contributions?
There is a certain tax, yes, there's a piece of it, there's a portion of it which is tax deductible.
But other than that, so Social Security, to FICA, whatever you pay to FICA, that doesn't actually reduce your adjusted gross income?
No, that's not, that is not deductible.
Not deductible. So it's included.
But if you were self-employed, there's a certain, for someone who's self-employed, there's a piece of it which is deductible against the business income. But that's only for those who are self-employed.
So the government makes you pay the Social Security, and you have to pay tax on the Social Security tax that you're paying. So if you're paying $7,000 to FICA, that's not coming off your adjusted gross income. It's part of your adjusted gross income. Is that right?
That's from a federal perspective.
Yeah, federal
yes.
standpoint.
Yes.
So they get you a lot of ways. It's unfortunate.
That's why you do tax planning.
Yeah.
That's what tax planning is for.
Yes.
Tax planning is about reducing your taxes in a legal, legitimate way, so you don't get in trouble.
Yes, and
part
that's
of our
why,
job is to keep people out of tax trouble.
Yes, you don't want to be a statistic in the law books, or a name recognition in the law books. My guest is Gary Massey. Gary is the founder of the Massey CPA firm, and located in Atlanta and in Chicago, and is working every day to try and help people win their way through the tax system. We'll be right back after the short commercial break. Don't go away.
Our protagonist, Jack, was a 65-year-old retiree who'd always been known for his offbeat sense of humor and love for numbers. He'd been searching for a way to support his community while securing his retirement income. One day, while browsing through the depths of the internet, Jack stumbled upon an article about Tax Code 664 and its potential benefits for charitable planning.
Hello, welcome to today's edition of Route 664, the road to human kindness.
Curious and excited, Jack decided to delve further into this mysterious code. He spent hours poring over tax law books and articles until he became a self-proclaimed expert on the subject. He'd tell his friends, "Who needs Sudoku when you've got tax codes to crack?" Armed with his newfound knowledge, Jack approached his financial advisor, Martha, and shared his idea of utilizing Tax Code 664 to set up a charitable trust. He was convinced that this strategy would benefit not only his retirement, but also his beloved community, particularly the revitalization of the local park. With a twinkle in her eye, Martha acknowledged Jack's enthusiasm and praised his resourcefulness. Together, they devised a plan to establish a charitable trust that provided Jack with a stable retirement income and directed the remaining funds towards renovating the park. Word of Jack's innovative approach spread like wildfire, inspiring others in the community to explore the potential of Tax Code 664. Soon, more and more people began implementing charitable planning strategies to support various community projects, ranging from building a new animal shelter to establishing a local art center. As Jack took his daily strolls through the newly renovated park, he couldn't help but smile. His Tax Code 664 adventure had not only secured his retirement, but also transformed the community in more ways than he could have ever imagined. With a wink and a grin, Jack would often say, "Looks like the joke's on boring retirement plans." Who knew tax codes could be so much fun? Who? Remember, your financial journey can be both impactful and entertaining when you explore the potential of charitable planning with Tax Code 664. Visit endowamerica.com. With the right knowledge and guidance, anyone can turn their dreams into a reality. Leave a lasting legacy that benefits generations to come. endowamerica.com. Plan, prosper, pass on. The power of 664.
Exciting news. The Discovery 664 Academy podcast is live on Spotify. And if you're not following us there yet, you're missing out. We're dropping new episodes every week, so don't miss out on more of the most powerful strategies to grow wealth through charitable planning. This is what we're all about on this program. When you tune into the Discovery 664 channel, you're going to see podcasts that will enlighten you and keep you up to date on how to deal with your charitable financial planning and to do the best job you can to build yourself your own 664 account. That's what's the end result of what we're trying to do here. We want you to endow yourself and then endow the community. That's what the bargain was when Congress gave us these laws in 1969. Do something good for the community when you pass, and we'll give you lower taxes while you're alive. That's what the bargain is, and that's all we're trying to teach you. Go to the 664 Discovery channel and find out more. And we're back. My guest is Gary Massey, and Gary is a CPA, and we've been talking about the mandatory payments that you have to make to Social Security and for unemployment tax. Those are things that are not voluntary. There are some things that are voluntary that you can do to lower your taxes. Give me an example of a couple of things that people can do, even after the tax year is over. They can do some things with retirement planning. How did that work?
Yeah, so retirement planning is something that I'm a huge fan of. There are things that you can do in coordination with a financial planner that are just amazing. Again, it is the most powerful when you have your own business. It could be a side gig, it could be a full-time side business, but that's where the greatest opportunities are. So I encourage people to work with a financial planner on how to structure it so that they can save the most for their retirement as possible. And they can make those contributions pretty late. Sometimes it's by December 31st, and certain types of contributions can be deductible even after the new year.
So
But
you
speak
get
with their financial planner. That's not what I do
you get the
myself.
opportunity to create a tax deduction after the year is over.
Yes, it's very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Gary, I know that you are concerned about the well-being of your clients. Are they afraid of the IRS?
Absolutely. Yes.
Why do you think that is?
People are afraid of getting audited, of getting
Mm-hmm.
in tax trouble. And my job is to keep them out of tax trouble. So we do planning, but it is always with the intention that what they're doing is legitimate. We can be aggressive to a certain extent, but we're not going to do what's called frivolous positions. We don't take a frivolous position. It has to be legal. If you're ever in an audit and you're looking at an auditor eye to eye, you can be proud of what you did, that it's legitimate, then you're okay.
Most
And
of
what
the
I
time,
tell people is,
the information that's given to you comes from the taxpayer themselves, unless you're doing an audited, right? You don't. Do you get involved in audits? Were you auditing
you mean
business?
IRS audits?
Yeah,
I personally do not do financial statement audits.
I
There,
see.
there are two kinds of audits. There's a financial statement audit
Mm-hmm.
and there's an IRS audit, or a state tax audit. We do
Mm-hmm.
the government audits, like a IRS or state tax audit. I personally do not do financial statement audits, but there are others who can certainly do that.
And they're the ones, because generally what people are doing, they're providing you with information which you then put into the tax return. You're relying on their
Correct.
information primarily.
Yes.
And
Yes.
sometimes they're a little bit aggressive, but I mean, it's not, sometimes you can say something as a deduction, even if it's not a deduction. You don't really get in trouble for that. You have to pay the tax if they catch it, but that's not actually
Oh,
the
you can
same
get in
thing as,
trouble. You can get in trouble. Absolutely. If
yeah.
you're committing fraud, if you're trying to trick the government and it's fraudulent, you can get in big trouble. I will not do a return that has fraud on it. I'm not going to sign a return. I'm not going to prepare that tax return. I would withdraw if I saw something that was in any way fraudulent. And then you can get an even worse situation, which is called criminal. Someone who is trying to defraud the government, that is a criminal activity, and I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be involved with that.
And what does that mean?
We keep our people out of tax trouble.
Yeah, but what is it? How do people get into trouble like that? What do they do? What are some of the ways that they get in trouble?
Oh, if they make up deductions that are not true,
Hmm.
it has to be a real deduction. It has to be business related, or if you were asking me before about charity, it has
Right.
to be a legitimate contribution to a charitable organization. There is a list on the IRS website of all the charitable organizations. Make sure you give it to one of those organizations, and you should have a receipt
Do you do
and
any
keep
work
the
with community?
receipts.
Do you do any work with community foundations at all?
I have over the years. I don't think I've done it recently,
Oh, okay, so
but people who
you
give
don't use
charity.
donor. You're not telling your clients to use donor advised funds or anything like that as far as their
Not
tax
for
deductions for
not for any
travel.
reason. I think it's a great idea. It's a
Okay.
great idea. I just I'm glad that you're reminding me about that. It's not something that I've looked at recently.
Well, at least that's a good thing. I think that's why I think it's great for us to be talking about this stuff all the time and letting the public hear our conversations so that we can uh, get them up to speed a little bit more with their financial literacy and regarding tax planning and doing the other things. And I really appreciate you being with us today on Route 664. Gary Massey, CPA, located in Atlanta and Chicago. And thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate the
It's a
opportunity to
pleasure.
speak with you.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And don't forget to tune into all of the things that we're doing to educate you about 664 and how 664 works to help you build your retirement, reduce your taxes, and increase your giving to the community. That's what the government decided was good for us in 1969 when they passed these sections of the tax code. We call them Social Security, very similar to Social Security. It's a way for you to build an endowment income, and you can do it with some favorably taxed dollars, and you can build it with also with non-cash assets. That's a really important aspect. Trying to avoid capital gains tax on transactions, build the income stream for you in the future. Income is very important. Wealth is not as important as income. Believe it or not, you can be very wealthy but not have any income. And so we recommend that you look at 664 and all of the features that go into it. In fact, you can join us on our podcast at Discovery 664 Academy, Discovery 664 on Spotify and Instagram. And don't forget to tune into the radio station and listen to the tremendous music selection by our good friend Wanda Miles. And don't forget to pick up the book, Social Charity. Social Charity, how Social Section 664 saved the Generation Alpha and the country. And we'll be with you again same time next week. Have a great week.
We've got best-selling authors,
You are going to start to uncover all the layers that are covering your genius.
and some of the world's top leadership experts.
We have structured a mastermind program that is very unusual and it is very powerful.
Robin Sharma at noon.
Your creativity will soar, your productivity will be epic, your impact will be legendary, you will be the best in the business, and you will not only achieve remarkable things, but you're going to feel sunsets. You'll feel a connection to people. You'll feel for what's going on in the world, and that will make you a world changer in your own unique way.
Robin Sharma at noon at 4 p.m.
It's a
Blaine Bartlett.
exploration of what it takes to be a highly effective leader in today's fast-changing environment.
Best-selling author, executive and leadership coach.
And if you've been liking what you've been listening to on the Soul of Business podcasts, how does one become a leader that can keep connection to the soul of business?
Blaine Bartlett at 4 p.m.
Look forward to seeing you there.
at Route664.org. This is Route 664 Radio.